A new opinion piece in the New York Times speculates that Taylor Swift may be a closeted queer person. And in the piece, editor Anna Marks points to possible LGBTQIA plus references in Taylor Swift's songs and performances as a signal of queerness. However, Swift has said in the past that she does not identify with that community. Some have found it unusual that the New York Times would publish such an article. CNN's Oliver Darcy joins us live with more details on this. Oliver, I mean, how unusual is it for the New York Times to publish this piece? I mean, it's something that you wrote about in analyzing why the New York Times went here.
It's very unusual. I mean, you do not see major news organizations like the New York Times publishing lengthy, this was a 5,000-word opinion piece questioning the sexuality of someone. Nevertheless, the sexuality of someone like Taylor Swift, a prominent, obviously, culture force. But that's what they did this week. They published the story in the opinion section questioning her sexuality, even though Taylor Swift in the past has come out and said that she is a straight ally of the LGBTQ community, that she's just trying to show support as they come under attack in recent years. And so that's what's led to a lot of criticism of the New York Times, including from some of the singer's associates. I've learned that they are not pleased, to say the least, with the New York Times. One of the associates telling me, quote, "Because of her massive success, in this moment, there is a Taylor Swift-shaped hole in people's ethics. This article wouldn't have been allowed to be written about Shawn Mendes or any male artist whose sexuality has been questioned by fans. There seems to be no boundary some journalists won't cross when writing about Taylor, regardless of how invasive, untrue, and inappropriate it is, all under the protective veil of an opinion piece." That's from one of the people close to the situation over in Taylor Swift's camp. Now, the New York Times is not commenting. They're not directly responding to some of this criticism, but they have pointed to what Anna Marks, the editor who wrote this piece, actually wrote in her piece, preemptively addressing some of the criticism. Marks wrote, I'll quote, "I know that discussing the potential of a star's queerness before a formal declaration of identity feels to some too salacious and gossip-fueled to be worthy of discussion. I share many of those reservations," Marks wrote, "but the stories that dominate our collective imagination shape what our culture permits artists and their audiences to say and be. Every time an artist signals queerness and that transmission falls on deaf ears, that signal dies." And it goes on to say, "Recognizing the possibility of queerness while being conscious of the difference between possibility and certainty keeps that signal alive." Now, obviously, associates close to Taylor Swift don't feel that's a justification for publishing this lengthy piece. And now it appears there's some bad blood between them and the paper of record. Fred?
Well, the New York Times, as you mentioned, while Anna Marks has responded, the New York Times almost has to, doesn't it? Because there is criteria measured as to what should be published. I mean, this is the New York Times after all. So there has to be that kind of explanation as to why, how beneficial, what's the objective here. And then for the writer as well, the question still remains, why? What does this mean? And what's the objective here in publishing something like this?
Yeah, and the Times right now, I mean, they're staying silent. They have not addressed this. You're not seeing an editorial leader like the head of the opinion section come out and justify why they felt they needed to publish the story, why they felt it was newsworthy enough to really break general rules and questioning someone's sexuality and speculating about it in the New York Times. The New York Times is the paper of record, and so usually their standards are a lot higher than other news organizations. In this case, they did something most news organizations would not do, but they're not defending it. They're just pointing right now to what Marks wrote, what I just read to you, defending the reason for publishing that story. Of course, it'll be intriguing in the days ahead whether they do feel the need to respond more directly, especially now that they're fielding criticism from Taylor Swift's associates.
And I mean, I've been reading it. I'm trying to figure out what the meaning is here, because it does seem like it's mean. I mean, it just seems like there is a an objective to undermine, or, you know, even using what it is to this association as a criticism, as demeaning, and that just seems like that would be met with a whole host of emotions as well.
Yeah, and you're not the only one that's read it and come away with that. You know, the Times has been receiving criticism for this piece, just exactly because of that. And again, it'll be interesting to see whether they do respond to some of this criticism. It's not every day that you have people in the orbit of someone like Taylor Swift criticizing the Times so sharply.
All right, Oliver Darcy, let us know when you hear more.